Louis Pasteur is the GOAT, which means the greatest of all time. In science, I believe his ways and methods are still vastly superior to the ones we have today. We should look to him as our guiding North Star when it comes to science.
You're watching the Spotlight Network, starring Hollywood's newsman, Logan Crawford.
They now believe a single member.
He works with TV and film legends. And now, Logan's shining the spotlight on the world's top emerging authors and creators.
International were abducted.
This is Spotlight with Logan Crawford, streaming on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire TV.
I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on the Spotlight Network, we're diving into a controversial and thought-provoking book that challenges the status quo of medicine and healthcare in America. The name of the book, Louis Pasteur Condemns Big Pharma. It is written by a terrific author by the name of Stephen Heartland. And in the book, he uses the legacy of the legendary scientist to expose corruption, raise awareness, and propose real solutions to protect public health, especially for our children. Winner of the 2024 Global Book Award in the medical category, this book calls on all of us to demand truth, transparency, and change in the healthcare system. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Prime 7 Media for helping us put him in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to support authors like him by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing his important book. The links are below this interview. Stephen, thank you so much for joining me here today on Spotlight.
Thank you for having me.
Great to have you on the show. I appreciate the contribution you've made to our healthcare system and the literature that is connected to it with this wonderful book. What inspired you to connect Louis Pasteur's life and work to today's medical industry?
Well, I believe Louis Pasteur is the GOAT, which means the greatest of all time. In science, I believe his ways and methods are still vastly superior to the ones we have today. We should look to him as our guiding North Star when it comes to science, and then we will know the direction we should choose, and that direction is transparency. When Louis Pasteur did his experiments and proved his theories, he did it in full view of the public, scientific community, news reporters, and experts in medicine. He wanted to show people they could trust the science. His methods and his experiments were transparent. We don't have this in science today. What we have are cover-ups, secrecy, and what big pharma companies call proprietary information, which means they don't want to tell anyone what they have done or how they have done it. There is no transparency in modern science, and it is right for people to be skeptical of big pharma and their products today. The profit motive has ruined modern science, and science has been corrupted. As an example, even the FDA does not have access to proprietary information from drug and vaccine studies big pharma has done. The FDA only gets the results of the studies, and they trust that big pharma did everything right. It's almost like they're trusting a schoolboy to grade his own test and homework. There is no accountability or transparency. This is a system that is ripe for abuse and corruption. And abuse and corruption are exactly what we have today. I am hopeful that RFK Jr. will help clean up this giant mess.
Do you think he's the right man at the right time?
I think, well, we needed him even 20, 30 years ago. After 1986, when they gave Big Pharma blanket liability protection, that changed everything. It gave Big Pharma absolute power. And as we know from history, absolute power corrupts, absolutely. And so we're kind of under their thumb right now.
And just so the audience is clear, you're not anti-vax, you're not pro-vax, you're somewhere in the middle. Talk to us a little bit about where you stand when it comes to vaccines.
Well, vaccines have proven to be a blessing to mankind when they are used in the right ways. Smallpox and polio vaccines, and the not often enough mentioned rabies vaccine, which was the first lab-created vaccine for people and created by my hero, Louis Pasteur. These vaccines have changed the world for the better, and they're a blessing to mankind. Who could argue against that? These vaccines have improved our quality of life and have proven their usefulness. But I think the anti-vaccine label people could pin on me is probably from how I feel about the COVID vaccines. I'm very anti-COVID vaccines because these vaccines were brought out too quickly and they had not been proven to be safe or effective. It is just not possible to create a vaccine and prove it's safe and effective in a few months' time. The COVID vaccines were just experimental vaccines, and they should not have been promoted or forced upon the public. What the government, Big Pharma, and the media did to people during that COVID time was an overreach of power, and it was wrong. It's an example of corruption. Big tech and big pharma and big government, the news media, our elected politicians, they all gave Big Pharma nice profits for these emergency use authorization COVID vaccines and no liability for deaths and injuries these vaccines caused. Billions of dollars in profits and no liability. This liability protection should be removed from the vaccine makers.
What are your thoughts on the hepatitis B vaccine?
Well, I'd like to spend a little time, if you would allow me, to just explain my thoughts clearly on this, because I believe it is really important. I think if one small change could be made to the CDC recommended vaccine schedule, it could prevent unnecessary injuries and deaths of many infants and young children. Currently, the CDC recommends hepatitis B vaccine to be given to all infants immediately after birth. I am advocating the CDC move this recommendation for hepatitis B vaccination to a preteen year just before high school. Hepatitis B is not a contagious childhood disease. The CDC states you can't become infected with hepatitis B virus from hugging, kissing, sharing utensils, sneezing, coughing, breastfeeding, food, or water. Hepatitis B is a virus people are exposed to by sharing needles in drug use or while having unprotected sex. Infants and young children have no risk from this virus in these ways. The only plausible way an infant can be exposed to hepatitis B virus is if a pregnant woman is infected with the virus and exposes her baby to this virus through the birth process. So my solution is to test all pregnant mothers for hepatitis B and vaccinate only those infants born by hepatitis B infected mothers, and leave all the other infants alone and don't vaccinate these children until a time of life when they may be exposed to hepatitis B virus. To expose all infants to the toxins within the hepatitis B vaccines for no good reason is a risk that is not necessary. The VAERS numbers don't lie. Over 100,000 people have died or been injured due to hepatitis B vaccines. And over half of these deaths and injuries are infants and young children less than 3 years old. So my proposed solution is to move the CDC recommendation for hepatitis B vaccine to a preteen year and vaccinate only those newborn infants who are at risk due to hepatitis B infected mothers. This will prevent unnecessary vaccine injuries. It will protect children from hepatitis B virus at a time of life when they may become exposed to it. We should remove unnecessary risk of vaccine injury and only vaccinate when it makes sense.
That proposal makes sense. Like you said, it seems that children are only at risk of contracting the disease when they're older. So why not give them the vaccine when they are older, when they are at risk, and not put children or babies or infants at risk by giving them the vaccine when they may not need it. So that is indeed another intriguing and compelling argument you make there. CPS funding. You are a little upset with the Child Protective Services, I believe. Tell us about your thoughts on that.
Well, there was a senator from Georgia who was very instrumental in this whole CPS saga, and her name was Senator Nancy Schaefer, and she was the one who uncovered and exposed all the corruption that this organization had, and she tried to get this legislation done to improve the system, to make it better, to protect children, to stop the violations of the civil rights, and and unfortunately, it was just not possible. The CPS had too much money. All this federal money goes to the states, and then the states, use this money to pay off the local politicians, the elected representatives, and she came to the conclusion later in life that the only way to stop the corruption within this agency was to remove the federal money, and I agree with her on this. The CPS and the laws that regulate it right now, they're unconstitutional. This should be handled by the states themselves. There should be no federal money. And when this federal money starts flowing, it causes aberrations in the system. Did you know that the federal government pays foster parents more money if their children are diagnosed with an issue, a mental issue, and they give them drugs? So it's an incentive for them to drug all the foster children. And more than half of foster children are being given these, psychoactive drugs, antidepressants, and anti-anxiety medications. And this is wrong. If we could remove the federal money and let the states handle this, I think we would all be better off.
Very, very interesting. Certainly, there are troubles with that program that need to be addressed, and perhaps handling things on a state level would be a great solution. What's the takeaway here of your book? What do you hope readers know or learn about Big Pharma and the issues that you're concerned about after turning that last page?
Well, there's quite a few things. I would suppose the biggest thing that I would tell people about life and health is to educate yourselves. Life is precious. Health is precious. Don't just follow what your doctor tells you. Get a second opinion. Educate yourself to see the truth. Read the vaccine book by Dr. Sears. That would be a good place to start your education. And be careful about listening to the advice from doctors who are being paid to push and promote drugs, vaccines, and surgeries. Always ask for more information. If your pediatrician for your child says you must follow the CDC recommended vaccine schedule or they will no longer serve you, then get out of there. Find another pediatrician. If your child is vaccine injured and it is not noticeable right away, you may want to wait until the condition clears before you consider giving them more vaccinations. Remember, these vaccines are full of chemicals and poisons. Make them give you the ingredient list before you allow them to vaccinate your child. Half of informed consent is the informed part. So get informed before you give them the consent to go ahead. Also, it's interesting to note, whenever I go in and see my doctor for myself, he always asks me, hey, do you want to do that flu vaccine today? And he asked me so many times in a row that I had to ask him, are you required to ask that? And he said, yes, I am required to ask that. So it's basically like, when you go to McDonald's and they say, hey, would you like to biggie size your meal, or would you like fries and a drink with that? This is all about adding, this is the profit model of these organizations. We need to take this promotion of vaccines for money out of these clinics. This is wrong. These are bad incentives. We want the doctor to take care of ourselves and to give us good advice that's not profit driven.
Exactly. We don't want the upsell, and medicine should not be about upselling to patients. They should be given the best advice possible by their doctors and inform their patients as much as possible and let the patients make an informed decision. And in the case of children and infants and babies, it should be the parent who makes that informed decision. And part of making that informed decision will be reading this wonderful book that Stephen has written. It is called Louis Pasteur Condemns Big Pharma. It is the winner of the 2024 Global Book Award in the medical category, and it is a call for action for truth and reform in healthcare. Stephen, thank you so much for joining me here today.
It's been my pleasure.
It's been a pleasure having you on the show. I appreciate your insight and your wisdom. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.